Welcome to the reading vlog that nobody asked for. I did most definitely get a package in the mail that I thought was Sunrise on the Reaping, but it was not. It was a Walmart delivery. I'm still waiting. It should be in today between 12 and 2. And from there, I will go ahead and open it with you all and I don't know, I guess just react to the physical copy. I do reading vlogs on a regular basis based off of polls that my subscribers take to help me pick my next reading vlog. And then I also do a booktuber reading vlog where I reach out to popular booktubers and ask them to tell me what books they would recommend or like what their favorite books are. And then I read those. I'm actually, after I finish Sunrise on the Reaping, I'm going to do my next booktuber reading vlog that I am very excited about. Stay tuned for an update on which booktuber's favorite book I will be reading next. I will be announcing that soon. I'm very excited. But yeah, for now, I'm just going to continue working. I'm working remotely today. Wait for my delivery to get here. I really need to figure out what's going on with my hair here. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. I think it's actually delivered this time. So, let's go see. Grand reveal. And we've got the standard Hunger Games cover. That kind of like textured, almost like faux leather cover with the symbol. I'm excited. Sorry if the sound is crazy with that unboxing. Since I didn't have my mic plugged in, probably got a lot of ambient noise. But I'm very excited. It is about 400 pages almost. As many people probably already know, this takes place from Haymitch's perspective during the 50th annual Hunger Games when he was a contestant. If I remember correctly, that is the Hunger Games where they had like double the tributes, if I'm remembering correctly. I definitely have high expectations of Suzanne Collins. I feel like she is a brilliant writer, brilliant storyteller, and she really has a way of capturing a story while also providing criticism and commentary to our current reality. The criticism and context of reality TV, fame, fashion, culture, I feel like is a huge critique here. And just the idea that, you have to be completely loyal to your government and not question it and all that good fun stuff. I will say I do kind of wonder like how things will be different now in 2025, than when the books were originally published in 2010s, like 2009, 2010. So I am going to be kind of looking at it from that angle as well and giving my thoughts on, if I feel like anything has been altered in how the story is told or how, Suzanne Collins is writing based on maybe some of that political context. I do still have less than 100 pages left in Voyager. This book is literally like 900 pages though. So it's like 3 books in one. So I do want to finish that. hopefully today, and then start on this bad boy tomorrow. Or maybe tonight. We'll see. I have officially read 2 chapters, and I am already depressed. I read 2 chapters. I read chapters 1 and 2 last night before I went to sleep, and it was so sad and depressing. I did decide that I want to go into the book a little bit blind. I didn't read the, dust jacket summary or anything like that. I feel like I already know a lot about this story, and if I remember correctly, if my memory serves me, I do know basically the whole kind of premise of this story. So now we're just kind of putting some color to it. I was really interested in Haymitch's love life, I guess, his girlfriend, Lenore Dove. I love how the Covey in the Hunger Games series always kind of like represent freedom and color and music and free speech. I have a lot of theories about the absence of color in our modern day, and I feel like the Covey really represent that absence of color and what that absence of color really means and kind of signifies. All of the Covey have color in their clothing. Usually their name is referenced to some sort of color, like Lenore Dove being referenced to a color. There were a couple of others too. And then Lucy Gray, of course, being referenced to color. I'm trying to see what the others were. Clerk Carmine. I believe Carmine is like an orange. I don't know, I feel like Carmine is definitely referencing a color. Tam Amber referencing a color. So I really love that aspect of the story and the Covey in particular. We've also met Katniss's parents, her father, Burdock Everdeen, who is friends with Haymitch, and then her mom, what was her name? Something March. Astrid March. If I remember correctly, so I believe it was in Catching Fire that Katniss went back and like watched the tapes of Haymitch's Hunger Games. He got really close to another girl from District 12, and I think he just kind of like out-survived everybody because he had a fire starter, which we found out is actually the symbol reference on the cover with the snake and the songbird. I do remember there being like he was very much like attached or in kind of like cahoots with one of his other tributes from District 12. I think it was Luella McCoy, and they just kind of like out-survived everybody for a while, and I feel like they like went separate ways, and then as soon as they went separate ways, she was murdered. And then I think that was the year that I believe Haymitch like found the edge of the arena and used that to like murder other candidates and just kind of outsmarted everybody. I think it's a really kind of nice but also very sad and devastating feature that Suzanne Collins has already kind of mentioned alcohol in this book, knowing what happens to Haymitch and his extreme alcohol addiction after his Hunger Games. At this point, when he's 16, he doesn't even like alcohol. His friend and co-conspirator who distills alcohol, Hattie, gives him like a bottle of whatever it is they distill. Their white alcohol is what they call it, white liquor, and she gives it to him for his birthday. His birthday is on the day of the reaping. He's like, oh, this will be really great to trade. Like I have this nice bottle. Like he doesn't even care about the alcohol. So that was really sad to me. And then, of course, at the end of chapter 2, the goodbyes with his family and with Lenore Dove, like really kind of just like shattered my soul. I really feel like Suzanne Collins is making a pretty big statement here. There was one point in chapter 2 when Plutarch Heavensbee, who ends up being on like the revolutionary side of the war later on in the like Hunger Games trilogy, he is filming people's reactions to their children being taken away and basically like having them reenact when their children were called out. And I'm like, this is so dark and disturbing. Like this is like straight out of like a horror. This is so dark. Like I feel like that is too dark for children. And it's just so sick and twisted to like exploit people's pain and grief and be like, oh, well, like reenact this most devastating moment in your entire life, and like, can you do this, and like cry more, and like gasp, or like maybe scream your child's name. That was like one of those things that's like, that is a mental image that I did not expect. So far, of course, Suzanne Collins has not disappointed in just the simplicity of her writing, but also the depth and the detail. You know, truly takes talent to achieve some of that. I probably won't be able to read a whole lot again, being like a work week, but I'll try to read a little bit at night and then update as I go along. I'll probably split into like thirds again, so I'll probably like try to check in once the games are starting, and then maybe at the finale. I don't know. We'll see. I'll just check in when I feel like it. But yeah, so far, so good. There's not a whole lot you can say about 2 chapters of a book, but I feel like I've mentioned a lot already. So very rich in detail, very rich in storytelling and metaphor for sure. And of course, you know, we already have such an intricate and highly developed world in the Hunger Games that we just kind of get to explore a little bit more and explore the prior generations' characters and, you know, the things that happened to them. So I changed shirts because I realized how wrinkly my shirt was. Tell me everything you think about the Hunger Games.
It's everything. It's everything. I'm obsessed with it since I was like little, so I'm like fangirling hard right now about it. And then the 3 of us just watch the movies. Are you putting this in your blog?
Yeah. For my 115 followers. Who do you think they'll cast as Haymitch?
I don't know. I feel like they're gonna. I hope for the love of Jesus that they go with a unknown actor. Because I really feel like that'll add like.
You know the character that played in Aragon? The guy that played in Aragon?
Aragon.
And he called her sweetheart for the first time. I was like, that's where the sweetheart thing came from. Because he always calls Katniss sweetheart.
And now he calls
Luella.
Bro, you don't remember? You read the book. I missed that detail apparently.
Okay, so the ultimate question: Harry Potter or the Hunger Games?
I'm gonna get like a politician's answer.
Politician's answer is liar.
That's wild.
I feel like the Hunger Games is very, I don't know, I'm about to say this and I'm like, but Harry Potter is too. I feel like the Hunger Games is very relevant to like today's society. What is that?
I feel like Hunger Games is more relevant than Harry Potter.
But Harry Potter is just so nostalgic.
Mom is so upset right
Let's talk about part 1. So today is Saturday. I have finally reached the end of part 1 of Sunrise on the Reaping. I've not had a lot of chance to read this week. It's just been kind of a busy, weird week. I did watch the new Twisters documentary on Netflix about the Joplin tornado. And that was really good and really interesting. And as somebody who is from Missouri, lives in Missouri, it just felt really familiar and very much like, you know, the culture and issues around tornadoes that we face in this state and in other Midwestern states. I highly recommend that documentary to anybody who's interested. The people who were interviewed for this documentary were such like quintessential Missouri people, and I loved it. They were amazing and seem, you know, like really great people, really great people to have in your life. Anyways, Sunrise on the Reaping. So part 1 is an absolute whirlwind of emotions and information and like character connections. So we learn just within the first couple of chapters that Haymitch's reaping is not like a typical reaping. He wasn't reaped by lottery. We learn that his love, his girlfriend Lenore, which I believe is referenced in one of like the original Hunger Games books, like very briefly, when him and Katniss have like a heart-to-heart and he mentions Lenore's name. So we find out that Lenore, or Lenore Dove, is Covey. I'm wondering if there's a connection to Lucy Gray, Lenore Dove, Dove being a shade of the color gray. So that's kind of a weird little like parallel between those two characters. We meet both of Katniss's parents early on in the book. We meet Haymitch's family, and he just seems like this all-around great kid. It was so sad to me how in part 1 it's mentioned that he helps distill what's called white liquor in District 12, but he doesn't drink himself. He's not really even like curious or interested in drinking alcohol, but he does it as like part of a side hustle. I was convinced pretty early on that Haymitch and Luella were going to like partner up in the Hunger Games. And then of course we have this devastating death of Luella at the like presentation ceremony. I don't even know what they call it, but it's where they dress up all the tributes and parade them down the Capitol. I remember in the Hunger Games trilogy when Katniss watches Haymitch's Hunger Games, she mentions that there is another tribute from his district, a girl that he pairs up with, and they're like paired almost all the way through, but then they separate at some point, and then that's when she dies, if I'm not mistaken. And I really thought it was Luella, but now I'm not so sure, and I'm like, is it Maisie? But then we have another twist at the end of part 1 where Luella is apparently still alive or has been brought back to life, or maybe it's like a clone of Luella. I don't know yet, but I'm like, oh my gosh, the twists just keep twisting. The parallels between Sunrise on the Reaping and especially the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes are really puzzling and interesting to think about. I'm curious like what kind of revelations there will be throughout the book. At this point, I don't even know what my predictions are. I don't even know if I have any predictions. I'm just like, it's just so intense. Again, some of the parallels we see in the Hunger Games to our own modern day, our own cultures, our own government are just really striking. I thought the slogan, the propaganda slogan that they use, no peacekeepers, no peace. I mean, sounds a little similar to some slogans that we hear in our own reality. I don't think that was an accident by any means. That was one thing that really struck me. The pesticides that they washed the tributes in, like, wow, that is absolutely mind-blowing to me. And then, of course, the moment when Haymitch is reaped and Plutarch is like basically coaching his family on how to reenact their devastation. Like, to me, that is something that is like burned into my brain because it's just so like it's so horrific, and so it goes against my what I believe about human nature. Like it's such a conflicting moment for me that I'm like, this can't be real. Like it's almost like dissociative in a way, which I think is also very powerful. And Suzanne Collins did a really amazing job capturing and writing that moment and making it as disturbing and powerful as it is. I do want to try to get through part 2 today as well so that I can finish it tomorrow and hopefully talk to my little sister about it a bit. We went out to dinner last night for my mom's birthday, and I had no idea she had been reading it too. So me, my older sister, and one of my younger sisters are apparently all reading this book at the same time, and she is so excited. She's a little bit further ahead than me, and she just cannot wait for me to catch up. So I'm sure we'll be having a debrief at some point very soon. For now, I think I'm going to do some filming for some other videos, maybe start editing the first part of this video, and then try to get some reading done. So, got a busy Saturday ahead of me. Hey, it has been a minute. I have not really been reading much the past few days. It's been a really busy and crazy week. And now, today, Thursday, I have come down with yet another cold type illness. I am planning on trying to finish part 3 of Sunrise on the Reaping. We have about 100 pages left. At this point, I am enjoying the book a lot, but I feel like my week and my life have been so crazy that I just haven't been able to adequately appreciate it and sit with it. So I do feel kind of bad for that because I was really excited about this book, and it's so good that I feel like it kind of deserves a lot of attention, and I just have not been able to give it that. At this point, though, we've met a lot of our seasoned characters. Effie Trinket came into the picture briefly. I was listening to Jamie Foxx vlog earlier, and she said that it kind of reminds her a little bit of a fan fiction. I will say, so far, as much as I love the book and the story, I do feel like it follows almost too similar of a trajectory as the original Hunger Games. There have just been a few things that have just been too conveniently similar. For example, when they're going up on their podiums and waiting for the signal to begin the games, just like Katniss, Haymitch sees this bag that he grabs on his way away from the bloodbath, and he just kind of avoids that bloodbath altogether and goes towards the edge of the arena. Also, it feels like the story follows that similar pattern and goal motive of kind of trying to give it to the man, show the game makers that they have a force to be reckoned with the tributes from 12. So just it feels like this prequel to me is showing that Katniss has really done exactly what Haymitch did. But for whatever reason, it seems like the outcomes are different because obviously Katniss is able to mobilize this rebellion, whereas Haymitch wasn't. And I mean, I feel like there could be a lot of reasons for that, time and place, whether or not the people were ready for that at this time. So I still haven't decided whether or not I think it's a weakness of the book for it to be so similar to Katniss's games. But at this point, I am kind of questioning that a little bit. I've just finished part 2. Yeah, it's really sad and devastating with the deaths that we've seen so far. The capitalizing on the death of your own child that we see with Wyatt and his family. And then, of course, Beatty and Ampert. Even Lulu, who, isn't Luella per se, but I thought it was kind of nice how everybody, including Haymitch, recognized, okay, this person isn't Luella, but she is still just a girl who is just as much a victim in this as everybody else. I did appreciate the aspect of mind control. from Lulu. I don't think I fully appreciated that with PETA when I was a kid, and then even when I read it again as an adult in the last year or two. It's really been this year that I've kind of looked into that aspect of our history in the United States and how these things really can and may happen. And just seeing that portrayed through Luella, or Lulu, excuse me, and through PETA is really powerful because that is absolutely something that could be done and probably has been done. And I am not going to say anything more about that. But that was something that I have always appreciated about Suzanne Collins. I feel like Suzanne Collins, for whatever reason, has kind of been able to like get away with this in a way that a lot of other authors don't. These are the kinds of things that most authors don't write about anymore, and if they do, they don't get published or they don't get traction. And I don't know how she was able to toe that balance, but she was, and it's really awesome to see. I don't know if I've mentioned this already, but like the aspect of the poison in the atmosphere and in all the water and the food is another thing that's really reminiscent of the modern day. The no peacekeepers, no peace slogans, very familiar phrasing of propaganda. So, yeah, like there's just so much. So again, like it really is. It's so well written and such, amazing metaphors, and kind of just little commentary on our society that Suzanne Collins does in these books. And I'm really like hopeful but also apprehensive to read part 3 because I know how sad it's going to be. I've seen a lot of reactions on YouTube, and my sister has finished it, my younger sister, and is like completely like chomping at the bit for me to finish too. So I know I'm in for it, but I'm excited, and I think today is the day. So today is Sunday, March 30th. Oh my gosh, I have something in my book. Got it. This vlog has definitely turned into quite a, I won't say a shit show, but it's definitely turned it out to be more chaotic than I had originally anticipated. I expected to, finish this book in a couple of days and have a reading vlog up, by the end of this weekend, and have this, tucked neatly away and behind me. I finished the book a few days ago, and as I was going through and editing and kind of piecemealing everything together, I realized that I never gave my final thoughts on the book. When I finished it, I had anticipated on waiting a few hours, kind of collecting my thoughts. I went for a walk, and I guess I just never came back and gave my thoughts. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because I do feel like over the past few days, my thoughts have marinated a bit. And I feel like, I have a little bit more to say at this point. I am still sick. I've been sick for 5 days now. I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's COVID or what, but it went from a scratchy sore throat to a glass shards sore throat to sinus pressure and gunk to a cough. Now there's kind of a head, it's just been all over the place. I couldn't smell for a little bit or taste. So I have no idea. I have no idea. On top of that, it's been a crazy couple of weeks, y'all. I might talk about it in the future. Nothing bad, but definitely a lot. And I'm going to leave it at that for now. But just know that part of the reason it took me so long to finish this book and kind of wrap up my thoughts is because of the week and a half that I've been having. Anyways, all that being said, let's get into Sunrise on the Reaping and my final thoughts. So this book destroyed me. It was definitely very sad. I definitely cried, and it definitely gives me a lot more empathy for Haymitch. I've always liked Haymitch as a character in the Hunger Games. I always just thought he was so complex and so well-rounded as a character. He's obviously not perfect, and there's moments where I'm like, you piece of shit, what is wrong with you? But at the end of the day, he's a good guy, and he cares about Katniss and Peeta, and kind of has a sense of found family. I feel like I might have known from the original Hunger Games that Haymitch's family had died after his games. I can't remember. I feel like that was mentioned. And I know I do distinctly remember, either in the book or the movie, there being mention of Lenore. I don't think he said Lenore Dove in the original trilogy, but I do remember a Lenore, and that being the woman he loved. But there was not a whole lot of context around that at all. It was pretty much implied that something had happened to her and that it was very tragic. I was not expecting, I knew that something was going to happen to Lenore. I knew that something was going to happen to Haymitch's family. The fire was devastating, but the gumdrop was murderous. That destroyed me. And just the fact that that is something that he has to live with for the rest of his life, knowing that he unknowingly did that, it's just so cruel. Suzanne, how do you have these cruelties in your mind? It's so it's amazing. I'm not sure if I like Sunrise on the Reaping quite as much as I liked Songbirds and Snakes, but even still, like, there's just something about the Hunger Games and the way that Suzanne Collins writes these stories and the things that she implies in her writing and in her stories that is just so powerful and so resonant, and it's just so well crafted and well done. I wish more books were like this nowadays. I wish more books were on this level of depth and detail and care and craft. Like, Suzanne Collins crafts these stories and comments on our societies, our reality here on planet Earth. Like, these aren't just entertainment. Like, yes, they are entertainment, but she is definitely like sending a message, and she does it so well. Um, One thing that I did kind of think more about, especially as I was editing, was how I had said I thought maybe the similarities to the original Hunger Games might be a weakness. And having finished the book and thought about it a little bit more, I actually no longer think that that is true. I think the exact opposite, actually. I recently read Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows, and one critique I had about that book was the lack of involvement of the people and like the people's role in the war and shifting mindsets and like mobilizing behind an idea in order to make change. And I think Suzanne Collins really comments on that and makes that point in Sunrise on the Reaping as like a contrast to Katniss. For whatever reason, well, I feel like I know some of the reasons, but for whatever reason, Haymitch and the people around him operating and trying to rebel against the Capitol, they're not able to do so successfully. And I feel like part of the reason, one, being that a lot of what happens during the reaping is kind of covered up and hidden, and that wasn't the case with Katniss. The act of, rebellion in the Hunger Games, the volunteering as tribute, the putting the fingers together and raising them up, it was just subtle enough to pass for the Capitol and to be presented to the Capitol, but, powerful enough to begin rallying those feelings among people and getting them to begin thinking about rebelling. We didn't get that with Haymitch because it was too much. There was too much going on. There was too much rebellion. The act of rebellion was too much, so it had to be covered up. So we didn't get that initial spark that we got with Katniss. I also, and this just kind of hit me today, this thought, I really think that Suzanne Collins did a brilliant comparison between Katniss and Peeta and Haymitch and Lenore Dove. Katniss and Peeta's love, especially in the beginning, wasn't necessarily authentic. It was very much like a manipulation tactic in order to get the Capitol rallying behind them and thinking about them and remembering them. But Lenore Dove and Haymitch's love for each other was very real. They loved each other very much, and they did everything they could to keep that love out of the limelight. And that was kind of like the main point of chapters 1 and 2. You're not going to use our love for entertainment at the Capitol. So they didn't really show their love, and therefore nobody was able to like mobilize behind it. And of course, the fact that Lenore Dove was not actually a part of the games. So I feel like those two things kept Haymitch from kind of getting the traction that he would have needed to really make a difference. He was just kind of a rascal, and it was kind of like playful and not taken as seriously as maybe it would have been if there was that like love element to him. And of course the element of them being in the games together. So I think for those two reasons, the people in the Capitol trying to kind of overhaul the games were unsuccessful in doing so, despite their best efforts, despite, you know, all the internal workings that they did, despite all of the kind of covert infighting that was going on. It just wasn't public enough to capture the heart of the, is it a republic? Is it supposed to be a republic? I don't know, the country, and get it mobilized in a way that would have really made a difference. So I feel like the similarities, you know, kind of make a point, but also really kind of highlight the key differences between Haymitch and Katniss that made Katniss's rebellion successful, the Mockingjay successful, and made Haymitch unsuccessful. So those are kind of like my main takeaways. I think that Songbirds and Snakes was also, you know, very well done, but for whatever reason, like the story in that just really draws me in, you know, kind of adding a little bit of depth to President Snow, kind of making him more human, but not necessarily like agreeable or likable in any way. I don't know, for whatever reason, that story, the love story in that too, really captivated me. But I think that even though I may be a little bit more partial to that one, I think Sunrise on the Reaping, you know, act like kind of like from an academic or like, you know, critical reading standpoint, I think it might be better. I'd have to go back and read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and, you know, see what I glean from that on a second read. But anyways, those are my thoughts on the Sunrise on the Reaping. I wish that I could have like given it a little bit more attention as I was reading it, but I'm glad that I have been able to kind of sit with it and really kind of like ruminate on my thoughts. And I feel like the more I've done that, the more I've realized that I actually did like it more than I initially thought when I finished it. When I first finished, I was like, oh, that was just kind of like a cute story. But now I'm like, actually, there was a lot. There was a lot going on in there. I wish more books were written like this, because then I could talk about books from so much more of a critical and academic lens instead of, you know, just talking about all the things wrong with the books that I'm reading. And I think this also, like, not to continue the tangent, but like this just goes to show that, you know, it really has nothing to do with the reading level or the writing style, because this is a very easy, accessible read. It's YA, and unlike other books in the Hunger Games series, it's kind of written more childlike. Not that Haymitch is childlike, but he is like a boy, so the way that he thinks and talks and writes is a little different than how Katniss thought and how Snow thought. Like, it's just a little bit more straightforward. And even still, even from that more juvenile perspective, it is still a very good piece of literature, in my opinion. I want to go back and read The Hunger Games again and The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, because I feel like there's a lot of significance to the songbird and the snake kind of like battling it out that I maybe didn't catch. There's a lot of symbolism in these books that I may have just forgotten. But yeah, it was a great book. Definitely one of the best books that I've read this year. I've read a lot of great books this year, but this one probably takes the cake because I feel like it aligns with my own beliefs and values and ideas. Whereas some of the books that I've read maybe don't as much, but they're still very good. So that is it for now. Definitely stay tuned for my next reading vlog, the favorite reads of a popular booktuber that many of you probably know. I'm really excited. She's amazing. She's great. And I hope that she likes my video when it comes out. And I hope that I like the books that she picked for me to read. But anyways, that is it for now, guys. Hopefully next time you see me, I won't be sick and feeling like crap. And yeah, toodaloo. Till next time. Bye.